Hi, Saloni. Hi, Saloni. Hi, Saloni. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Sorry.
Okay. Yes. So I need to. Uh,
So I can share my screen from the laptop if wanted, which is why
okay. So do you want me to share, or you can share? Like I will give you
I'll
rights to
share.
share. I'll give you
I'll
rights.
share.
I guess you can share.
Yeah.
Or else I'll just give you rights. So we have a batch of 10 to 12 students for journalism specialization.
Okay.
So other BA students are for different specializations. So we have sound engineering, we have photography, we have film, and we have journalism. So for journalism, now these are final year students, so we have the specialization.
Hmm.
Yes, I will make you co-host. So you can share your screen.
Yes. Sounds cool. I think I can still share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just wait for a couple of minutes till students
Yeah, yeah.
join.
I'll just keep this. I'll just keep this
Yes,
on,
yes.
on, so it's easy. I'll just be back in a second.
Yes, yes.
The audio is okay, no?
Yes, very much. All good. I guess we can start, Saloni. There are a couple of students who will join later.
Okay.
So I will just introduce you. So, good morning, students. We have with us Saloni Mistry. I have already messaged you about her, about her education and about her experience. But still, I will just introduce her again. So, Saloni Mistry is a senior correspondent with Pune Mirror, and now she's currently looking after beats like education, and earlier she has looked beats like crime, and she has also worked in different uh, newspapers for features and lifestyle reporting. So Saloni completed her double masters in journalism and international relation from Monash University, Melbourne. She did her bachelor's in mass media from Symbiosis School of Liberal Arts. She has more than 5 years of experience in journalism, and she has worked with Golden Sparrow newspaper as lifestyle writer. And currently, she is senior correspondent with Pune Mirror, and a very young reporter, I would say, who is bold enough to cover different crime stories and youth-related stories. If you see her stories, if you search for her stories, they are very youth related and very city centric stories, and that's what our topic is. So, as we know, we are talking about community journalism and citizen journalism. So she has worked, especially in Pune, covered different aspects of Pune, and that's where our topic is going to head. And I will over to you, Saloni. We will take it ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sutta. Hi, everyone. So like Sutta said, I have been working with Pune Mirror for a while now. I focused on crime beat back in 2017, went to study, came back, and now I'm looking at education and animal related stories and youth and stuff like that. So the topic that we're covering today, which is like citizen and community journalism, according to me, it's like I think that both of them are extremely intertwined, and yet they both have their own space in their own individual identity in the community. Sometimes it's very safe to say that every citizen journalist does community reporting, but not every aspect of community journalism is necessarily just a citizen reporting. And we'll get more into that as we go ahead in the presentation. So I just wanted to point out that if anyone has any questions along the way, please feel free to interrupt me and ask them. Just remember that your biggest weapon as a journalist is to be able to ask questions very without any inhibitions and as many of them as you can. Okay, so we will start now. So just before we start, I'd like for you to do like a small exercise. You can think about it, you can write it, whatever is comfortable with you. So this is Mohammed Jasleen. He's a Jamia Millia Islamia student who runs a YouTube channel called Jamia World and reveals every important event that is happening in the university. So he really blew up big during the CAA protests and during other political speeches that happened there and stuff like that. So take a minute and try to figure out, do you think what he is doing is community journalism? And if, or is he a citizen journalist? Like if you know the difference between the two, based on whatever you understand of it, just take a minute and write down, say maybe 2 or 3 points about it. Okay. So the next one is the Quint. I'm sure all of you have heard of the Quint and what it does. I'm sure you'll follow it on Instagram. So, like we all know, it's an English and Hindi Indian general news and opinion website. And in terms of editorial content, it is focused on education and more of like explanatory. So, it takes an event and then it tries to report it either from the scene or it tries to explain it in more of a, like an educational video format. So they do it through newsletters, multimedia, they have documentary series and everything like that. So do you think this is community journalism or is it, and they also in fact have a section where a citizen can come and report. So which section do you think this falls into? Okay, so the next one is Dhruv Rathi. I'm sure you've all heard about him. He was quite a bit in the limelight for his anti-BJP and anti-central government stance. So he is a social media activist and is like runs a YouTube channel. Obviously now he had started with very humble beginnings, but now he obviously has an insane following, and he obviously the following came with a lot of controversy, and um, he was basically accused of being a puppet for the app. But now he is running an opinion column in the print media. So, do you think he's a citizen journalist, or do you think he is practicing community journalism?
Community journalism?
Sorry, did someone say something? Okay, we'll just keep ahead. Okay. So the last one that I want you to think about are video volunteers. Basically, what video volunteers do is they are citizens and people from different parts of the community that kind of create videos and report about incidents that happen in the more remote and rural parts and the slums and different communities where the mainstream media does not reach. So it's an international media and human rights NGO. That is trying to increase the representation of uh, different communities in media. So where do you think they fall? Okay, so now what we'll do is, now that you've had a few minutes to think about where all four of these fall, we're going to look at what community journalism and what citizen journalism is, what are their tropes, how are they similar, how are they different, and try to understand, and then we'll revisit these four slides again at the end and try to figure out if what you thought of them or what I think of them, even for that matter, is correct. Okay. So what is community journalism? Now, very simply put, it is information about the community that you are living. So it could be locally sourced, and it is for the locals, right? So if I am a community journalist and I work with Pune Mirror, my news truly completely focuses on the issues happening in Pune city. If you are extremely hyper local, there is a very rare possibility that you will even try to move into the rural parts of Pune, because as urban dwellers, there's not much that we want to know what's happening. But if given a choice, we'd want to know, like if you're in Pune now, for those who are from Pune, you would probably want to know more about what's happening in Kothur, Balghan, and Koregaon Park than you would want to know what is happening, say, in Baramati or Khanavadi or Saswad or those regions, right? And that is actually what community journalism represents. It's also professionally curated news very often, which focuses on, like I said, a certain neighborhood, a community. You also sometimes, so when I said hyper local, you have a hyper local um, niche of community journalism, which are area wise papers. So if you guys are aware, there is, so Kondwa in the region, right? So there is a Kondwa Times, there is a Varje Times, there is a Hinjewadi, I think, as well, has their own community newspaper of sort. You have a lot of these Facebook groups that cater to news about just an area. And so what happens in Pune city for a Punekar is usually, like I said, more important than something that happens even in our exact next village, because what happens in Pune is directly affecting us. It's directly affecting our community. If I cannot step out of my house after 10 p.m., that is something that I would be more bothered about than about a complete lockdown 20 kilometers from where I live, right? And that's the essence of community journalism. Now, uh, the source of community journalism. So there are two things here. So your community news uh, very often comes from obviously the community, right? It comes from people living uh, next to you, people you meet when you're walking, people you meet in the garden in the morning, people you meet at your gym when you go to exercise. That is where your community news comes from. Your neighbor can tell you something that could be newsworthy. You could be having chai at the tapri outside your house, and you could overhear something or see something happening over there, which becomes your news. And obviously, when you talk to friends and stuff like that, so those they become your main sources of where you get your community news from. And this is where the factor of exclusive stories also come in, where so, for example, okay, let me try and explain this with the way I work, right? So, for I worked on a story about how the laborers were being the Metro Pune Metro Rail workers were being transported from the site that they worked at to the camp that they live in. Now, I travel this road every single day to get back home. I also have a friend who runs a restaurant where these workers get picked up from. Now, I happen to visit that restaurant from to pick up food from my friend, and just in conversation, he happened to mention that, dude, they take these workers in like a truck and like they fill so many of them, and that immediately clicked it because obviously, like that's not how people should be transported, and then that became a story. So that for me came from my friend. But if he was just an acquaintance and I didn't have a rapport, if I didn't go there 5 minutes before my order was ready to kind of just chit chat and have a conversation, that story would have never uh, come out of. And trust me when I say this, literally every single person has a story to tell you. You just have to have the time to listen to them. You have to have a ear out for the stories, and you need to figure out the community angle and aspect uh, of it. So and how do you? So when I started off, I think my biggest issue was trying to get people to remember me, right? Now today I'm coming in speaking to you guys. So you all will probably remember me for today, for tomorrow, and you all will not um you all will probably not even remember my name tomorrow. And that's fine because you've seen me just once. So your visibility or your recollection is not that high. But Sukta, for example, you'll see her every day, you'll interact with her every day. It's very difficult for you to forget who she is. And that is the essence of getting news from the community, where you your job or your goal is to basically ensure that the members in your community, when they see something happening, you're the first person they think of. So the more you meet them, the more you speak to them, the more, even if you're not calling them up, say for a story when you're working, you're just calling them up to catch up, you are friends with them on social media, you react to their small achievements and stuff like that. That is a way to kind of keep your presence felt in their life, so that when they are thinking of a situation that is different, or of a situation where they need your help, or where the situation where they want uh, to kind of make something public, the first person that comes to their mind is you. And that is how you land up getting your exclusive stories. Right. Now, there are, so for community, apart from actually going and interacting with individual people that you know, another form of uh, another series of activities rather that you can do under community journalism, or you can attend committee meetings, you can attend mohalla meetings, you can go to protests and gatherings happening in your vicinity, you can go to the corporator's office. uh, when you are, say for example, a friend of yours has called you up and told you about an incident that has happened, right, when you're working, and you have all the information, and you don't have to go and meet those people because you've spoken to them over the phone, and you've spoken to the two most important people on the phone. You have all your information, your photographer's gone and clicked a picture, and it's all done. But sometimes it's just important to go for the story when their photos getting clicked, or when you want to meet them, you try and meet them face to face, because when you're having a conversation with them, they will probably let out two other things that are two different stories for you. Or they might, or at that meeting might be two other people who you're not talking to over the phone, but who are there, and they can then tell you two other things that are happening in different circles that they are a part of, which again is news for you. And that is how you not only build your network, but that is how you immerse yourself into the community to try and able to represent them completely, right? And obviously, like I said before, you have to keep engaging in conversations with people that you already know as well. Because look, as journalists, as third year students, as me working in the field for 5 years, we are trained, you guys eventually, I'm sure some of you already are, and I am trained to kind of understand what is a story and what is not. We understand what is newsworthy and what is not. Sometimes people don't, right? So for example, I tell you, I worked on this story about how a school in Pimpri Chinchwad was open for one day, but there was road work going on outside um, their school, and so within one day of reopening they had to shut down. Now for the parents, for the teachers, for the director of the school, it's just like, oh my god, like, you know, it's
Ma'am,
sad
can
they
you
have to
please tell
open.
me
And
which school in PCMC?
sorry, hello.
Ma'am, can you please tell me which school in PCMC?
So Saraswati Bhuvan English Medium School. So they were open for just one
Okay,
day.
I know that.
Sorry. Okay, so they were open
Ma'am,
for just
I
one
know that
day.
school. I stay nearby.
Right. So they were open for just one day and they had to shut down again. Right. So I was speaking to the director and I was just generally calling her up to ask her how is school going now that it started after 2 years. And she happened to mention that, oh, the first day was really nice, but now we don't have school till Monday. And I was like, oh, why, what happened? And that's when she told me this. And not realizing that this could be a story for me, because it's important. It is children have gone back to school after almost 2 years, only to just not go again, right? And that becomes an important information that, according to us, the community needs. And then you also do society and civic office visits. So, I mean, sometimes when you go to like the, say when you go to PMC or you go to the board office, or so if say I cover education, so if you go to the higher secondary office or you go to the 10th standard board office, which is at Shivaji Nagar, you meet people over there, and more often than not, they have some or the other kind of story to tell you. So if you're out on the field and if you're looking at all these places, you're going to get your community stories from here, right? Okay, so there are multiple forums now. Okay, so is there any question till now? Does anyone have anything that they're not clear of or want to add to what I've said? No? Okay. So we'll move on to speaking about the forums for community journalism, right? So every group you have on WhatsApp is technically a news forum. So even for example, now if you're a part of the group on your um, society, right? Your society's WhatsApp group. Someone could say something over there that could turn out to be newsworthy for you. So the source that you get your information from, or the source that you disseminate information to, is they are the ones where you need to concentrate more on. Like what I mean is, like for me, for example, my societies group, I often get stories from there. I get stories from the Bhavhan local community group. And also when my stories do come and they do get published there, we get more voices, you get more opinions, it's also a way for you to tell them what is happening. Um, Also, I think that the reason, and I'm happy if anyone disagrees, that the reason that all these smaller forums like, say, YouTube or WhatsApp or Facebook or Telegram or any of these forums are becoming centers and hubs for journalists and citizen journalism is because not everyone takes the newspaper anymore. So most of us over here, I'm sure, we all get our news from Facebook. We get our news from YouTube. There are very few of us over here who diligently read each and every newspaper every morning, right? But there are multiple reasons for that. It's not easily accessible. It takes a lot of time. It's money. It takes money. But when you already have the internet, when you already have Facebook, when you already have WhatsApp, where news is sent to you, you don't even have to go looking for it. There is a sense of ease of access, and there is obviously zero cost. And then internet at this juncture becomes like a saving grace where um, everything you want, everything you need is just a few clicks away. Okay. Now, contrary to this, a little bit, we move to citizen journalism. Again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to stop me and ask. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. Okay, so citizen journalism and community journalism, like I said, is different but is intertwined. So everyone that takes to spreading any sort of information via groups or their Facebook account or Twitter account can be considered a citizen journalist. Ideally, because that citizen is looking at a situation and is directly reporting it or conveying it to a larger audience, right? There is a sense of empowerment when you do something like this, and you feel like you're an active member of the community. And Twitter is a great example of this, because very often what happens is someone sees something, a fight happening or an accident having happened, and 90% of the time, a person's first response is to take your phone out, record it, and post it to Instagram, post it to Facebook or Twitter, wherever you're most active. And it is also not good in a kind of way that people are, and this is a whole other debate, but it's also not good in a kind of way where people are first looking at uploading it on their social media as opposed to actually going and saving or helping the person that is in that situation. But that is the power that all of us carry with us, our phones, right? And it literally, each and every one of us here could be a citizen journalist just simply by being outside, being present at the right time, at the right place, and then having reported it to a larger audience. Now, obviously, there are issues with this in terms of authenticity of the information. You are reporting what you can see. There isn't necessarily, you're not authenticating the information. Of course, you're seeing it, so you're believing it to be true, which is called viewer bias, but you don't know the backstory. You don't know any history of the event that is happening. Say, for example, two people are fighting and a guy hits a girl, and you're just going to put a video of it up, not but someone just puts a video up of it saying that this guy beat the girl up, but we don't know any of the background. You don't know who they are. You don't know why they're fighting. So there's also half information, and there is authenticity of the information. These are two major issues with any sort of citizen journalism. However, it cannot negate the fact that it puts forth a variety of voices, and it's very inclusive in nature. Just by the mere fact that literally anyone can pick up a phone and spread information allows it for to be extremely inclusive to a fault, in fact, but inclusive nonetheless. And of course, because so there could be 20 people reporting the same fight on the street, and that is giving a variety of voices, different perspectives to one issue, right? Now, let's look at how community journalism is different from citizen journalism. So like we said before, community journalism is locally sourced. It's professional news coverage focusing on the city and its communities, and covers a wide range of topics while concentrating on the effect it has on the local readers, right? Citizen journalism, on the other hand, in this, citizens play an active role in the process of collecting, reporting, analyzing, and disseminating news and information. Now, community news is more often than not supported, regulated. There's a third party motivation. When I say third party motivation, it basically means, as being a journalist with a newspaper, when I do a news story, say about like the school that I spoke about, my motivation is third party. It rests in the third party, rests in the community that is going to read it, rests in the people that is going to affect, the school or the PCMC authorities that are going to feel the effects of that news. There's nothing that I'm going to gain out of it. Also, it turns news, and there's a depth of topic, because when as journalists you do any story, you speak to all the stakeholders involved. Now, compare this to citizen journalism, which is not supported, right? You're literally picking up your phone and doing it. No one's paying you to do it, unless obviously you're a
YouTuber who's getting money from that video. There is no regulation or verification. I could literally see, as a citizen journalist, I could literally see any fight on the street and put it up, and there's no one to tell me, don't do that, it's wrong. Or, go verify what you're saying and do it. None of that. Also, my motivation comes from within for to be a citizen journalist. I want people to know that I was forward. What I believe is my opinion, which is right, is what I'm doing. The motivation over there rests in myself. When as citizen journalist, it's more of a story that you're telling the person than news that you're reporting. Since you're only speaking to one, you're possibly not even speaking to any stakeholder. Or even if you are, you're speaking to just one stakeholder. So you're basically narrating a story, and like I said before, it's half information. However, the things that are similar in both community and citizen journalism is the fact that it's user-generated content. So as a journalist, when I get my news from the community, I'm getting it from the user, from the person who is my reader, who is local. And the person who's reporting as a citizen journalist is also doing the same thing. Both of them are trying to attract and it both affect local audiences. Both are a voice that is being put forward, and both are disseminating information. Right?
मैम
Yeah.
सिटीजन जर्नलिज्म में जो है
हाँ.
जो सिटीजन जर्नलिस्ट होते हैं वो खुद पहले से इफेक्टेड होते हैं चीजों से, उसको लेके ही आगे बढ़ते हैं वो। मतलब मान लीजिए कि है ना, सड़क का समस्या कोई है जो आसपास में है छोटा सा, तो मैं उससे प्रभावित हो रहा हूँ, इसलिए मैं उसको लेके आगे बढ़ रहा हूँ।
एग्जैक्टली।
तो वही अगर
जैसे मैंने बोला, हाँ।
यस यस।
जी
और वही
बोलिए।
अभी आपने जामिया मिलिया वाला दिखाया था शुरू में कि एक वीडियो बनाने वाले हैं जो वहां पे जो भी कुछ होता है उसको दिखाते हैं, तो उसको हम लोग कम्युनिटी जर्नलिज्म में रख सकते हैं क्योंकि वो स्टूडेंट कम्युनिटी को ये दिखा रहे हैं।
जी, आप उसको वैसे भी रख सकते हैं, आप उसको सिटीजन जर्नलिज्म भी रख सकते हैं। बाय द इफ यू कंसिडर द फैक्ट कि वो उस कॉलेज का लड़का है, उसका मोटिवेशन वो करने का क्या है, क्या अगर आप उसकी वीडियोस देखो, क्या वो हर एक इंसान से बात कर रहा है? अगर वो कॉलेज से निकलने के बाद भी अगर वो वही रिपोर्ट करे तो वो कम्युनिटी जर्नलिज्म में शिफ्ट हो जाता है।
अच्छा।
वो कम्युनिटी की ही न्यूज कर रहा है, लेकिन जब तक वो उस कॉलेज का हिस्सा है, जब तक वो खाली, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर वो CA NRC के प्रोटेस्ट के टाइम पे अगर वो खाली जो स्टूडेंट प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं, अगर वो खाली उसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं और पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स से बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, तो वो वन साइडेड स्टोरी हो जाती है। वो कहानी बता रहा है, वो सपोर्टेड नहीं है, उसको कोई रेगुलेट करने वाला या उसकी इंफॉर्मेशन को कोई वेरीफाई करने वाला नहीं है। इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि वो जो इंफॉर्मेशन बता रहा है वो गलत है, ऐसा नहीं है, लेकिन हो सकता है वो हाफ इंफॉर्मेशन आप भी उसको बोल सकते हो। वो स्टोरी बता रहा है, उसका मोटिवेशन बाय द मेयर फैक्ट कि वो उस कॉलेज का लड़का है, उस कॉलेज में जो होता है वो उसको अफेक्ट होता है, उसका मोटिवेशन उसके लिए अलग होता है। लेकिन अगर फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आप किसी न्यूज़पेपर में काम कर रहे हो और आप जामिया मिलिया में जाके रिपोर्ट करते हो, आपको नहीं फर्क पड़ता कि वो इंस्टीट्यूट में क्या हो रहा है, क्योंकि आप थर्ड पार्टी को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हो।
सही बात।
तो आपका मोटिवेशन वो स्टोरी करने का अलग हो जाता है, थर्ड पार्टी हो जाता है, और फिर वो कंप्लीटली कम्युनिटी जर्नलिज्म में आ जाता है।
यस मैम।
यस। एनी अदर क्वेश्चन?
नहीं मैम, आगे पूछ लूंगा मैं।
So, one of the other important things that we need to understand with newspapers, with community journalism, whether traditional TV, radio, and with citizen journalism, is what is called sponsored content and fake news. So, in newspapers, often what happens is advertisers pay money to the newspapers. That's how newspapers run. Those usually go as advertorials or sponsored content, and they can be misleading. For example, a furniture company can pay a newspaper to give an article about how great the furniture company is, or about how they can pay the newspaper to essentially do a review of the furniture, for example, and the newspaper, by the sheer fact that they are taking money for that space, basically we can't say anything bad about it, right? You have to talk about how good how good the company is, what beautiful quality wood they're using, etc., etc. And that becomes an advertorial or a sponsored content. Now, the onus of kind of differentiating between advertorial or sponsored content lies on the newspaper, where sometimes newspapers use different font, or they write that it's advertorial content over there, or that it's marketing, or the language is such that some people who are more ardent readers understand. But this is soon it's blurring out more and more every single day. It's becoming really difficult to understand what content is advertorial, what is not, what has come because someone's paying for the information behind it, or you're actually a journalist has gone and got that information, or the journalist actually believes it um, to be true. So anything that has an opinion in it, which is like a review or something, has very high chances of it being sponsored and hence misleading. And fake news, for example, via Twitter and other social media, we've seen time and again how, say for example, there was this video circulating about great work being done in some part of India, I think up in the north. It turns out it was a picture from a few years ago, right? And that's fake news. And the rate at which fake news is growing, unfortunately, there we've had to full-fledged companies have been built to try and curb fake news, and that is a problem. It is also the reason why I believe that citizen journalism was born in the first place, right? Citizen journalism, when you're at the event, when say for example, with the student from Jamia Millia, right? He is at there, he's sharing with you content about thing that is happening on the campus. Now, of course, there is the possibility of the video being adulterated and stuff like that, but there is a very high possibility that his content and the fact that he doesn't have the money to kind of, adulterate or like edit it to a large extent or whatever is true. But the issue of fake news is very high when it comes to citizen journalism, and the same thing is called an advertorial or a sponsored content in TV or newspapers or radio and stuff like that. One causes bias, which is the sponsored content, and fake news causes chaos. A lot of lynching episodes that we have heard of have happened because of information which has later found out to be fake, which has been circulated on WhatsApp groups, right? And it has started from some citizen who's tried to spread information to other citizens. Unfortunately for us, neither is unavoidable. Neither is unavoidable. Neither is avoidable. My bad. Sorry. Both the content, sponsored content is going to happen. Advertorials are going to happen because newspapers need money to run. They need funds to stay afloat. They need to pay their reporters. They need to pay the people designing, the photographers, all of that. And fake news, you cannot regulate. The whole point of citizen journalism is that it's honest to the degree where there is no regulation for it. So the minute you start regulating that to curb fake news, you're taking away from the citizen who has the power or who's playing an active role in the community. Now, okay, I want to take a few minutes to tell you about what my day in the newsroom looks like, because I think as third-year students, if you're going to, I'm hoping some of you have interned somewhere, but also it's a great way to kind of understand what I'm trying to say. So we start our day by trying to contact all our sources and trying to see if we have any leads that we can work on. We call up people that we know, we speak to members of the community, we decide from before, or I'll decide, say, I want to, since I cover education, I'll say I want to go to SPPU today. And then when I go to SPPU, I want to probably meet 3 officials that I did not meet the last time I visited SPPU. So I'll go, I'll find them, I'll see if they're free, I'll go meet them, I'll sit down and have a conversation. 99% of the times when you're trying to look for a story, you never go to anyone with an agenda in your mind. You just go to them to catch up, and something or the other, and usually if you're catching up and if you're asking the right questions, they are going to give you information that you um, can turn around into a story, or that is news, or something that you've not heard of that you think is good for the community, right? So once we've got that information, say from them, you try to figure out how is this information going to benefit or help members of the community. Is it newsworthy? I'm sure you all know how to identify newsworthy content. So for example, um, okay, so I cover a lot of animal cruelty issues, right? Now, there was a case where there were 12 dogs that were poisoned in Kalyani Nagar. Now, if anyone is aware of the city and of that area specifically, you will know that Kalyani Nagar is an extremely pet and stray friendly locality. So for something like this to happen in that area is extremely unheard of. Like 1 or 2 cases is very common everywhere, but 12 over a period of 48 hours is a lot, right? Now, why does this become a story? Is because there is an entire community of audience that of pet lovers and stray lovers and feeders and animal activists across the city that would want to know, so they can start either taking better care of the strays in their area, or can just keep an eye out for more suspicious activity, right? So that makes it newsworthy in the sense that it is about the community. It is going to directly benefit the community. Now, the reason that is community news is because it came from community. The Kalyani Nagar community was the focus there. That was the local community. The news came from them. The news told them about how it basically gave them a list or steps of how the event transpired. What happened? How did the volunteer find the dog? Then how did they get it to the center? How is the dog doing now? What are the residents doing to try and help? Try and help the cops catch the people if that is the case, if it is intentional poisoning and stuff like that. So that becomes your community news. And then obviously, once you figure out what your news is, you take it to your editor. They approve or don't approve of it. If they approve, good for you. And then you come out, you speak. Then your job, and primary your job, and the reason that the one thing that citizen journalists don't do is you need to speak to every single stakeholder in that story. Now, very often what happens, especially with animal cruelty cases, is activists or animal lovers, in a sense, kind of get irritated if you speak to the person who has committed the crime, because they're like, why do you want to give them a voice? But it is important too. That is you presenting the full story as a journalist, as someone doing a community, someone reporting on a community issue. You are presenting a complete and a holistic picture to your reader. This is something that a citizen journalist cannot or will not do, which is why, which is where the difference lies, right? Okay, so I want you to go back to we'll go back to the 4 people that we started off with in the beginning. And I want you to revisit after what we've just spoken and tell me whether you think they're doing community journalism or citizen journalism. We'll skip Jasleen because we've already spoken about it. But okay, anyone can tell me what do they think where does Quint fall? Are they doing community journalism or are they citizen journalists?
मैम,
Yes,
मुझे लगता है कि ये कम्युनिटी जर्नलिज्म है, क्योंकि ये
लगता
खुद
है
अफेक्टेड नहीं होते हैं चीजों से।
हम्म,
क्योंकि क्विंट के बारे में मुझे तो ये पता है कि ये अल्टरनेटिव मीडिया है, क्योंकि मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया से अलग है और ये सारे मुद्दों पे बात करते हैं ये लोग।
हम्म,
तो ये कम्युनिटी जर्नलिज्म।
And anyone else? No? Okay. Right. So yes.
हाँ आप बोलिए.
So I also think that they do form community. They are a part of the community journalism section, for the simple reason that it is regulated to a large degree. There might be citizen journalists who are reporting. You could get locals from that area to report on the news, but there is still a certain sense of regulation. They are being supported by the organization. They have editors or producers who are guiding them as to what to do, who all to speak to, how to narrate the incident so as not to make it biased. Or even if one video, for example, is completely anti a person, you will have another person who you'll have another video that explains it in better. So if they can't do it in one video, Quint usually does it in two separate videos where they explain both of they explain all the different sides and perspectives of the situation.
यस मैम. और वैसे भी और ये फैक्ट चेक वगैरह भी करते हैं, क्योंकि सिटीजन जर्नलिज्म में क्या होता है कि आप मैं इस समस्या से प्रभावित हूँ तो मैं इसका वीडियो बनाता हूँ, सीधा डायरेक्ट सोशल मीडिया पर अपलोड करता हूँ. लेकिन इसमें क्या है, कम्युनिटी जर्नलिज्म में क्या है, और ये द क्विंट की अगर बात करते हैं हम, ये लोग फैक्ट चेक करते हैं, गलत सही का निर्णय करते हैं, उसके बाद ही अपने साइट्स पे उसको अलाउ करते हैं.
Right, correct. Does anyone else have anything to say? Okay, anyone have anything to say about Dhruv Rathi? Well, is he a citizen journalist or is he practicing community journalism?
मैम मुझे लगता है कि कम्युनिटी जर्नलिज्म करते हैं, क्योंकि इनके वीडियो हर मुद्दे पे आता है. और अपना ओपिनियन तो देते हैं, लेकिन इनका वीडियो जो है देश के अलग अलग हिस्सों में कहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, उदाहरण के लिए अगर हम कहें, बिहार इलेक्शन हुआ था, इस पर भी इनका एक वीडियो आया था, या फिर एनआरसी सीए पर इनका वीडियो आया था. ये खुद अफेक्टेड नहीं है उस चीज से, फिर भी उस पर वीडियो बना रहे हैं रिसर्च करके, तो मुझे लगता है कि ये कम्युनिटी जर्नलिज्म है.
Okay.
यस.
Is there anyone else? Guys, it'll be very great if you contribute a little bit in terms of discussion, because as journalists, that's going to be key. You want to talk, you want to be heard, you want people to remember you. No? Okay. So Dhruv Rathi, as Vishwajit said, correct. He does practice community journalism, but till he did not join print, I would count him as a citizen journalist. Once he's with print, there is someone who is regulating him. Even though it's an opinion column, there is he is supported, right? So Dhruv Rathi is a perfect example of a sense of where community journalism and citizen journalism, where there's a very thin line in between and you don't really know where they fall. Now, while Dhruv Rathi does cover a lot of issues that are not directly related to him, he's extremely anti-central government, right? So in all his videos, while he's telling you what the central government is doing wrong, there are very few videos, or in that video itself, there isn't much about what the other side of the story, right? And it's his opinion, it's his analysis, it's his understanding of the issue. So that, for me, makes him a citizen journalist. Okay. What about video volunteer?
मैम एनजीओ जो होता है वो उदाहरण के लिए अगर इंटरनेशनल एनजीओ है, तो अगर अलग अलग देशों में काम करता है तो वहां के लोकल मुद्दों पर बात करती है, तो शायद ये सिटीजन जर्नलिज्म के अंदर आ सकता है.
Okay. So anyone else? No? Okay. So video volunteers is both citizen journalism and community journalism. So it's like Vishwajit correctly pointed out, because it's an NGO and it's reporting from various parts. It is they are local people creating news content. So they are citizen journalists, but they're also practicing community journalism, because at the end of the day, they are supported. They do have a sense of regulation that they undergo, right? So I think what is important to remember is that there is a very thin line, and often, very, very often, an overlap between what is community journalism and what is citizen journalism. Not every community journalism is a citizen reporting on the issue that directly affects them, but every citizen journalist, in one way or the other, is reporting about the community, because he or she is reporting about what affects him or her the most. I'd like to open this up to any questions, if anyone has, about the topic, about working in the field, about absolutely anything.
मैम सिटीजन जर्नलिज्म का जो है फ्यूचर में
जी
क्या क्या मायने हो सकते हैं, इस पे अगर थोड़ा आप बात करें तो क्या इसका
सर,
फ्यूचर है?
okay, so citizen journalism is growing. Okay, just by the mere fact कि सबके पास फोन है, हर एक इंसान अगर चाहे तो वो सिटीजन जर्नलिस्ट बन सकता है. ओके, सो उसका फ्यूचर
है अभी जैसा मैंने कहा, जैसे ध्रुव राठी ने स्टार्ट किया सिटीजन जर्नलिज्म, राइट, उसने 2-3 वीडियोस डाले यूट्यूब पे, उसने अभी केप्ट एट इट, और उसने करते क्या, एंड नाउ ही इज अर्निंग अ लिविंग आउट ऑफ इट. तो फ्यूचर है सर, बिकॉज इन टर्म्स ऑफ प्रिंट मीडिया इज डाइंग. जो है वो ऑनलाइन है, राइट. डिजिटल फोरम्स जो है, न्यूज के, प्रिंट है, टीवी है, फेसबुक है, पॉडकास्ट है, रेडियो है, ऑल ऑफ दीज आर काइंड ऑफ कैचिंग नहीं है, अभी वापस आ रहा है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ पॉडकास्ट एंड स्टफ लाइक दैट. सो सिटीजन जर्नलिज्म का स्कोप आगे जाके बहुत है, अगर आप उसको, अगर उसको रेगुलेट करने का या उसको सपोर्ट करने का एक मॉडल we can figure out, then it's going to be the next thing, I'd say, because न्यूज वहीं से आती है, न्यूज सिटीजन से ही आती है. तो अगर वो ही रिपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, विच अगर उनपे एक अम्ब्रेला सॉर्ट है जहाँ पे वो ऑथेंटिकली रिपोर्ट कर रहे हैं न्यूज, वो पूरी इंफॉर्मेशन लेके न्यूज रिपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, तो बहुत सारे जो मिडिल मैन है, जो बहुत सारे बायसेस और पर्सपेक्टिव्स बीच बीच में आते रहते हैं, वो सब कट जाएंगे. तो जिसको इशू हो रहा है, जिसको कोई बात से दिक्कत हो रही है, वही इंसान रिपोर्ट करेगा. लेकिन ऐसा कुछ मॉडल ढूंढना पड़ेगा जहाँ पे उस इंसान की अकाउंटेबिलिटी हो उस इशू पे. अगर उस इंसान ने, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, कल मेरा किसी इंसान का झगड़ा हो गया, अगर वो बंदा सिटीजन जर्नलिस्ट बन के मेरे बारे में बहुत सारा कुछ गलत बोल दे इंटरनेट पे, अभी अगर एट द एंड ऑफ द डे पता चला कि मेरी गलती नहीं थी, तो there has to be some accountability that he holds as to the kind of content he uploads. So if that model can be figured out, if someone figures out how to work that, then citizen journalism is what is the future.
यस मैम, लेकिन अब मैम ये था कि जितना लोग मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया को मानते हैं, उतना सिटीजन जर्नलिज्म को तवज्जो नहीं देते हैं, क्योंकि उनको लगता है कि फैक्ट के मामले में मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया आगे है. तो इस पे क्या कहते हैं आप?
जी सर, अभी कैसा है, मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया ने बहुत साल बिताए हैं व्यूअर्स का, रीडर्स का ट्रस्ट अक्यूमुलेट करने के लिए. बहुत इतने सालों से चलने के बाद अभी, और एंड दैट मैं वही बोल रही हूँ ना, बिकॉज वो रेगुलेटेड है. बिकॉज आपको पता है कि आपका जो भी जर्नलिस्ट, जिसकी भी आप न्यूज पढ़ रहे हैं, उसने हर एक उस स्टोरी के हर एक अफेक्ट होने वाले हर एक इंसान से बात की है, right? Like he has spoken to every single person who is affected in that issue, and he has seen the paperwork, he has seen everything. That is the kind of expectation you have from a journalist, which is why there is a certain amount of trust, right? Plus, if you keep seeing a journalist stories again and again, you know that that person works well, you know they're a part of the field, you know they're a part of the community. With citizen journalists, क्या होता है कि आप एक बार न्यूज करें, फिर आप दूसरी बार कोई इशू पे ना करें, फिर आप तीसरी बार कोई इशू पे ना करें, तो people don't recognize the person. Abhi, with me also, for example, as a journalist, yes, लोग मेरे को पहचानते हैं, लेकिन वो पुणे मिरर को ज्यादा पहचानते हैं. So उनका ट्रस्ट जो है वो पुणे मिरर में है, और पुणे मिरर की एबिलिटी में है कि उसने मेरे को एज ए जर्नलिस्ट हायर किया है. सो मेरे को वो इनडायरेक्ट ट्रस्ट आ रहा है मेरे पे,
Yes,
राइट?
ma'am.
सो इट्स नॉट दैट कि सिटीजन जर्नलिस्ट पे ट्रस्ट नहीं है, बट बिकॉज वो रेगुलेटेड नहीं है, बिकॉज सिटीजन जर्नलिज्म में बहुत ज्यादा बायस है इन टर्म्स ऑफ कि आप उसी चीज पे रिपोर्ट कर रहे हो जो आपको अफेक्ट करती है, या फिर आप खाली आपको जो दिख रहा है वो रिपोर्ट कर रहे हो, आप उसके आगे सवाल नहीं पूछ रहे हो, तो दैट बिकम्स अ इशू.
Yes, ma'am.
Saloni, I would like to add one thing, like, ask one thing.
Sure,
Do you
definitely.
think somewhere that citizen journalism might be a threat for mainstream journalism? Your views on this?
Of course, it is a threat. See, like I said before, right? If citizen journalism grows and we find a way to kind of regulate and moderate it to kind of filter out the bias in the content, why would you need newspapers? Because then you literally have people reporting, say, if there's an issue happening in Korega Park, if there's a citizen from there reporting the issue, I will not have, no company will have to hire me to travel all the way from my office to Kalyani Nagar or Korega Park to kind of do that. So in that sense, then yeah, citizen journalism is a major threat. But till someone doesn't figure out a model to filter out the bias, to filter out the subjectivity or the motivation that citizen journalism brings with it, I think traditional media is safe. In fact, that is the one thing that is keeping traditional media intact. And Shubhra, correct me if I'm wrong, but the fact that your readers and your viewers have that amount of trust in you, trust in the establishment of or the media, of it being the fourth pillar, is what keeps traditional media houses running, is what keeps media running, right? In a lot of foreign countries, for example, citizen journalism is not catching up at all. Like, for example, when I was in Australia for the longest, there wasn't that much of citizen journalism as much as you see on Twitter in India, for the simple reason that it is not, they have so much trust on their media houses to kind of disseminate the right kind of information that no citizen wants to take that extra burden on themselves. So till there isn't a way to filter out the bias, like I said before, I think traditional media and like my job is safe.
Also, your experiences, because you also worked in this is with perspective of students who are, because taking into consideration that these students are in their third year. So because you have also taken education in Australia, so your views
Right.
and then what is the scope of journalism in other countries, or your experience with, if you like any experiences, because you also wrote for many publications there as an intern. So your experiences, because that also would be an add-on thing for students.
Okay. So international. So every country that you travel to, the media is extremely different. You cannot expect what happens in India or how or what you understand of the media here for in any other country to be the same. Now, for example, and it's a very simple example, but a very important one. So in Australia, they do not report on suicide. It's not that you're not allowed to, or it's not that there is a rule against it. It's just a thing that the newspapers and the community has decided to not report on, because they believe that there is no way to report on suicide without actually talking about how it happened, and they don't want to give people ideas on how to commit suicide. So there is no suicide reporting in mainstream media. Now, the side effect of something like that is that Australia has one of the highest rates of suicide in men. They have more men die of suicide every year than they have men die in road accidents. And that's a huge number, but there's no one talking about it. Till smaller self-funded online digital platforms didn't start campaigns about it. And that is when now they have a suicide prevention minister. So you need to understand how the issue is so big that they actually have to have a suicide prevention minister. Now, this is something that is very different in the media there. There is no written law against reporting on the issue. It's just something that the media has collectively decided. So if you're doing a crime story, if you even hear about, so when I covered crime when I was in Australia, even if I heard about the issue, I was not allowed to report on it. They would just be like, yeah, that's okay, just like find something else. So if you do decide to go abroad to study, to work, whether it is Australia, US, Singapore, wherever else, just understand that the media is very different. You're going to have to, in fact, you're going to have to take time out to understand the do's and don'ts of their media landscape. It's not the same everywhere. While theory and in literature, media is the fourth pillar, and you're supposed to like report what is happening and report the facts and stuff like that. Every country that you go, in fact, every region also that you travel to within different countries, the kind of reporting that happens, the kind of news that the community from there appreciates or doesn't appreciate or works or doesn't work is all different. And considering that a lot of news platforms are now moving to digital platforms, the whole clickbait theory where you want to do stories that will get you enough clicks to help you generate enough money is becoming a serious problem. So digital platforms, media houses will try to refrain from reporting on issues that are not going to get them the kind of views that they want, because they have to then employ money and cost towards something that is not reaping them any benefits. So no matter where you travel, like even in India, if you travel from Pune to say Bombay to work, the media scene in Bombay is very different from the media scene in Pune. And I'm sure Supta can tell you about that since she's worked in both media fractions. But am I right, Supta? Like Bombay media is very different, right?
Yes, we can say that. Like the style of working or something like you get the vibes of the city. So
Right.
apart from city, like yes, there are differences.
Right. So it's and that is true anywhere, whether you travel to a completely different country, or even if you travel to say like in the local newspapers in Saswad or in Nagar report or have a different understanding of what is news and what is not news as compared to the urban newspapers. Right. So it also depends a lot on where you're working, the kind of establishment you're working in, and what is the establishment's goal in what they want to achieve from their newspaper or digital platform.
Okay, I would also like because we are nearing towards end of our session and discussion. If in case any student has any doubt about if they want to take this opportunity to ask about media scenes abroad, if you want to smallest things like the process and all those things, you can take this as a platform to ask questions because she is
Literally, you can literally ask me anything. I promise I will answer.
yes, because I guess she has just traveled. I guess a year before she came back from
Yeah.
Australia. She was during COVID. She was there, and I would also like to ask you this question because during COVID, during pandemic, you were there in Australia, and half of the half of the year you were here in India. So how was COVID coverage different in from in India and then in Australia? What was the major difference that you find?
Right. So you know how in India or reporters are allowed to travel despite there being lockdowns or despite there being COVID rules in place about like curfew and stuff like that, right? As a reporter over here, if you have a story that you're going to attend, you're allowed to step out. That access of areas in Australia was very limited. So unless you have a very specific reason why you're going somewhere, you just could not step out, whether you were a journalist or not. So for the longest time, and in fact, I spoke to a friend of mine the other day who's working with the Australian Broadcasting Channel, and she said that she misses actually going out on field to find stories because of the lockdown. So now they have to sit and look for everything online within their office, as compared to what we're doing over here. Like over here, when I came back and I was working during the second wave over here, and uh, there were even where there were checkposts and stuff where people were checking. I had to show my ID card and I could go, but because I was traveling offices, I was trying to find stories to cover. But in Australia, that was not the situation. You had to find stories to cover, but you had to do everything from the four walls of your office because you were not allowed to step out. What then that did is the quality of the news reports that came out from during the lockdowns in Australia was very different than what they would do otherwise. Now, Australia reports a lot on their footy, which is their local game. It reports a lot on court hearings and crimes, and it reports a lot on small community news. Like, for example, they do a lot of feel-good stories. So their feel-good stories increased because there were a lot of people helping each other during COVID. And that became the central focus for a lot of media houses in Australia during the 11 lockdowns that they have had as of now. Crimes, also, again, COVID focused would just be on what the regulations were in place and what um, and about people who were like evading them and stuff like that. Another thing that Australia did a lot during the pandemic was do analysis. So they would get a lot of via Zoom and via online, and they would get a lot of experts in the field to talk about uh, post-COVID or mental health during COVID. So they essentially focused on issues that they could do from their newsroom. There wasn't too much of stepping outside as compared to India, or as compared to Pune, where I was out on the street the whole day trying to look for something, right? We would have to figure out and visit and then find issues that were happening here. So that is one major difference between how news was in Australia and how reporting is in Australia during COVID versus how it is in India. And like I said before, it will be different for every
country.
Okay. Any questions, or we'll just go towards the end of the session? Okay. Thank you,
If anyone's
Saloni.
not comfortable asking, no problem. Also, I have to say, if anyone's not comfortable asking questions right now, I'm happy for Sukha to share my email ID.
Email ID. Yes, I will do that. I will do that.
Yeah,
I'll definitely do that.
will be fine.
Like, in case anyone has any doubt, you can ping me separately. You have my number, so you can ping me, and I'll share you Saloni's email ID. You can ask questions there. Anything related to abroad studies, anything related to journalism, anything as simple as if Pune Mirror gives internships. That could also be a question. But yeah, so so yes, take
So
it about.
just about jobs and internships, I'd really like to tell every single person over here, no matter what your field, especially if it is journalism, find out if there are job opportunities, if there are positions, vacancies, send in your CVs, just drop down at the office. Drop down to the office, go meet the editor, go meet the CEO. It shows a certain sense of proactiveness that is really appreciated. For all you know, it might just be that you were there at the right time on the right day and you might just get the job that you want. I have learned that the hard way, but and I did a lot of that in Melbourne, when I would just walk up to establishments and go like, I want a job. And 60-70% of the times I got it. right? And I think that is a major thing when you're trying to apply for a job.
Actually, a very good suggestion by Saloni. Same thing. Even I just I used to I remember I met one of the editors in a cookery show. He was some guest, and I just told him I would like to work with you as an intern, and he agreed to it. And that was the proactive thing that he saw, maybe that he saw in me, and he immediately told me to meet me the next day in the office, and that's how I got my second internship with Times of India. So I guess that's proactiveness is necessary with students. Don't get just don't just wait. Now you have, of course, you have too many things. You have LinkedIn, you have so many pages related to internships, media, and all those things. But that time, of course, it was not very easy. But yes, you can directly go to the offices and you can directly ask people. And they पूछने में कुछ नहीं जाता. Same है. Like you can just go and ask
Yeah.
them. Yes.
Yeah, call them up, send them email. Just don't pester them. Give them some time. But like I said, even with how it is with your community, they need to remember you. So they basically, if you've spoken to them or met them enough number of times, or message them enough, like a appropriate amount. The next time they have a vacancy, even if they don't have one now, the next time they have a vacancy, they will at least call you in for an interview to see why it is that you so desperately wanted to work for the company, and that could be your opportunity to convince them to give you the job.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Saloni. for
Thank you
this
so much,
time.
Sagar. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Hope you liked the session. Prashant, Vishwajit.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you so much. If there's any feedback, please let Sukta know, and Sukta, please let me know.
Sure.
It'll be great.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
Have
you,
a
ma'am.
nice day.
Bye bye. Have a
You
good
too.
day.